The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Market Fantasy. They're coming to new customers, pay just $5, get $100 of bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's currently Friday night, October 17th, around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the breakdown of the semifinal matchups taking place in Almaty, in Brussels, and in Stockholm, taking place on Saturday. Before we get into any of those match previews, a brief reminder, you can support the show by like subscribing to YouTube. Reminder, you can also leave a rating and review on Spotify or Apple. So podcasts you can find on YouTube or different audio-only locations. But no matter how you actually consume the podcast, it's fine. But please help the show grow by like subscribing on YouTube. And reminder, leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, reminder, we have nice merchandise on the merch store for the tennis show. So check out the shirts, sweatshirts, and mugs that we have for the show. For example, we have this shirt, different colors, so check it out. Plus, a reminder that you can also check out the Hockey Open podcast, which is back for NHL season. Join Ryan and Joel as they break down the biggest games, storylines, and awards and best bets throughout the NHL season. Let it slide on the Hockey Gambling Podcast. So, starting off with the actual recap of the lock and dog picks for the last episode. Overall decent. Ended up winning the lock and lost the dog. For the lock, nice win. We had Moutet team total over 12.5 at minus 125. Weird match. More breaks than I thought that were going to take place in that one between Moutet and Struff. Didn't matter, though. Worked out for us. Moutet eventually got the job done in straight sets, but there was a 7-5 in the second set. So he finished with 13 games. Nice win there. Thought he would win, but I liked the team total anyway because there was a path for him to get there if he lost. And it didn't matter as he won in a competitive straight set. Once again, victory. So a nice job by Moutet going over the team total. For the dog, had Mickelson in straight sets against Mochizuki, and that was a plus 150. He won handily in the third set. Unfortunately, though, he no-showed the second set, as he eventually did win in 3. But either way, a point is decent episode. For the actual recap with the quarters, in general, I think we did pretty well. I feel like it was kind of a mixed bag, but either way, a point is we ended up winning the lock, lost the dog, so basically chopped for the, I'd say, lock and dog picks at the end of the show. So for the recap, in Almaty first, we were wrong about the first match handily, and we thought Caboli would beat Duckworth, and he got destroyed. Caboli won 5 games, so really bad job by him. If you had the under, you pull off a miracle win, because the other player won handily to help cash you the under. But either way, Duckworth played very well. Caboli didn't really have it, and he got buried in the process as a decent favorite. So nice job by Duckworth as once again, a pretty healthy dog price, getting the job done handily. Nice job by him. We got the Medvedev matchup right perfectly. We thought he beat Morozin in straight sets with a 7-5 or 7-6 in there, and that's exactly what happened as he won 7-5, 6-2. Team total over got there, straight sets got there, spread got there, called that one right to a T. Mickelson, 1-3, didn't work out. Thought he'd end up winning. Bad matchup for Mochizuki, but he no-showed the second set and then eventually woke up again in the third. Picked up a loss there for the dog, and Moutet won 6-4, 7-5, which we thought would be a solid option for the team total, and that got there. So a nice win as well. Moving on to Brussels. We thought Bonzi would actually give Leheshko a run for his money, and he did early on. Now, he actually won a set, won 7-6 in the first set. Then he got injured. Leheshko killed him, and Leheshko won 10 of the last 12 games before Bonzi quit. So Bonzi retired. He's had injury issues over the years, and that happened again. But we thought Bonzi would keep it somewhat close. He did. Then he got injured, and then eventually he quit. So nice for our Leheshko future. We have him to win the event. So overall, kind of got that one right as well. I thought Bonzi would go home not empty-handed, and we were right. But then eventually he ended up leaving early because he got hurt. Perricard beat Musetti. We did not have that. We thought that Musetti in general was just a bad matchup for Perricard. Then again, indoor hard court serve botting is very tough to beat, and Perricard ended up not facing a break point in the entire match. So nice job by him, getting some revenge and getting the job done in straight sets. 10-8 in the finals, in the second set breaker. Thought that Felix would kill Spizzirri, and he did. Second set was close. He actually fought off 2 set points that eventually did win in the tiebreak in the second set. He won the first set 6-2. He covered the spread. He won in straight sets. Pretty straightforward there. And we thought that Fokina would be in trouble against Collignon. We thought that Fokina might win in 3, but that did not happen as Collignon won in straight sets. Played very well. Ended up winning the first set in a breaker. Then he went God mode in the second set, and Fokina never stood a chance. Thought for a second Fokina might get bageled. He won a game out of courtesy, I guess. But either way, Collignon won in straight sets. Nice upset win for him in front of the home country fans in Belgium. Moving on to Stockholm, a bunch of marathon matches. All 4 matches ended up going to a third set. Humbert beat Sonego, covered the spread, thought he would, as he ended up losing the first set in a breaker, then lost 3 games in the next 2 sets combined. Nice win for him. Rune ended up beating Echeverry, thought he'd win in straight sets, though. Didn't happen, as Echeverry won the first set in a breaker, but Rune settled in, and he won 6-3, 6-4 in the next 2. Thought Ruud would beat Korda. He did. Lost the first set in a breaker, came back and won the next 2, 6-4, 6-4. And we thought that Chapo would struggle a bit against Emer for no reason. And he did. He ended up covering the spread, but it was kind of like the Borg match all over again. He could have won it. He served for the match, twice actually, in this case. Choked it both times, then ended up losing the breaker, and then destroyed Emer in the third set 6-1. So either way, a point is Chapo got the job done, but like the previous match, he choked away a straight set win just to win in 3. So there we go. Moving on into the recap, though, of our outright picks up to this point. Knock on wood, it might be a very, very nice week for us if we get a couple of people home. So for the recap in the quarters for Almaty, I mentioned those already in the last episode. We got Mutet at 275. We also got Mikkelsen at 3-1, and we have Medvedev at -150. So overall, good episode. We got 3 of the quarter winners correct, and we ended up getting 2 of them at a +275 or higher price tag, so can't complain there. For the outrights, though, to win the event, we only have 1 outright left in Almaty. We have Medvedev at 250. We did lose Diallo, and we did lose Struff, but we still have 250 available for hopefully a nice outright cash there. Then we get into Stockholm, and we get into Brussels, and we have a golden opportunity for a very, very nice cash in both events. So for the outrights in Stockholm, there are 4 people left because we're in the semis. We have 3 of them. We have Rune at 325. We have Chapo at 12-1. And we have Humbert at 16-1. So if anybody not named, going through the actual list here, if anybody not named Ruud win the event, we win an outright. So can't complain there. Basically a perfect outcome for us. We'll see what happens. I know Ruud is in a very close match on the books with Chapo. But either way, a point is we do have 3/4 of the field left, which is very nice. As for Brussels, I'll point out we have a pretty similar story because we have 3 people left out of the 4. We have Felix at +320. We have Leheshka at 6-1. And we have Pericard at +3,000. So Medvedev's the only guy we got left in the first event that we talked about. But we have 75% of the field in the next 2 events. We better win at least 1 outright. I'll put it that way. I think we should end up winning more than that. But anytime there are 4 people left and you have 3/4 of the people left in 2 of the 3 events during the course of the week, I have to be thrilled with that outcome. So we'll see if, once again, the guys that we ended up taking can finish the job. But unless Ruud and Calignon end up winning, we will win at least 1 outright, hopefully more. So if you back the outright plays, you're on pace to make a lot of money this week. Hopefully it works out that way in the end, but can't complain where we're at right now. Checking out the actual comment section, I see Manzi stopping by, also mentioning that he had Caboli and the Musetti options. The Italians didn't really come through on Friday. I see Andrew asking about Vienna and Basel picks. That'll be next week. I'm going to be, of course, finishing these tournaments. Then I'll get into the Vienna and Basel stuff once again in the next episode, and then in 2 episodes from now, after I break down the final for these 3 events. Anyway, before we get into the preview of the matchups taking place on a Saturday in the semis, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, ADG, using to bet on football, college football. They have, of course, tennis. They have NBA, NHL, you name it. They also use a prop builder, second to none. They have a very easy platform to use with crypto for depositing and funding your actual account and getting payouts with crypto. So check that out. Head to my book at ADG. Use code SGPN when you sign up for a new account for 100% bet back bonus of $100 from customers. Look at the G promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, which is the #1 sports prediction market in sports for America. So once again, if you are in America, check it out. Great prices, reduced juice for a lot of different options. They also are available in 35 states, so make sure it's available in your state. Download the app, get $50 when you spend just $5 if you use our promo code SGPN. Get an extra Novig, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finish recapping the quarterfinals. Time to move on into the semifinal matchups. So starting off with the first matchups taking place on Saturday, going to go in order chronologically speaking. So the first matchups will be starting in Almaty, as always. So getting into those two matchups. First one, Duckworth taking on Medvedev. Medvedev's massive favorite, about minus 570. Duckworth's around plus 400 for the spread. You have minus 3.5 for Medvedev and minus 160, 3.5 in favor of Duckworth. The plus 3.5 is plus 124. The over-under in games is at around 21. Now, if you want Medvedev at other numbers that are cheaper, you can get 4 games flat. Now, for the set spread, Medvedev straight sets is around minus 150 or so. Duckworth win sets around plus 125. The over 2.5 sets is plus 190. Face off before, years ago, in the Toronto event there, and you ended up seeing Medvedev win in straight sets. Never in doubt. But that was 4 years ago. Can't really use it. Now, Medvedev's been good. Said before, he has improved his level after firing his coach and hiring a new one. So far in the event, he's had a couple of close calls, but he has been able to win every set. He has beaten Walton in straight sets and Morozin in straight sets. Duckworth, though, went through qualifying, and he's been good. Ended up beating an unknown in the first round, beat Kukushkin in 3, beat Blanchet, beat Diallo in 3, defending runner-up, and beat Kaboli in straight sets. Now, I understand that Medvedev can be a head case, and I get that he makes sets more interesting than they need to be, but I think he should win this comfortably. I think he's better than Duckworth. I know Duckworth's been serving well, and that has been a reason why he's made it this far. But Medvedev, look, I know he lost to Rinderknech in the semis in the last event, but it's a golden opportunity to make his first final in a while. I think he takes care of business here. I think he looks good on the courts, the fast-paced courts in Almaty, and I do think that he's a better player, obviously, than Duckworth. Straightforward, give me Medvedev straight sets. Think he ends up winning. I'll go with the minus 150 for that one. Moving on to the next matchup. Looking at the matchup between Moutet and Mickelson. Fun matchup on paper. And Moutet's minus 125. Mickelson's plus 105. The over-under is set at 22.5 games. For the set spread, Moutet in straight sets is plus 200. Mickelson in straight sets is plus 250. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 125. So they faced off previously, and it was actually this year, faced off in Cincinnati and Mallorca this season. And we saw Moutet win on grass, and they faced off in Cincinnati on hard court, and Mickelson won in 3. Now, he lost the first set, came back, and eventually did win in 3, but it was close. Now, for the path for both players, Moutet's been looking very good. He has not dropped a set yet. Ended up beating Tomic, ended up beating Shevchenko, and also ended up beating Struff all in straight sets. Mickelson did drop a set to Mochizuki, but he's been playing well too. Beat a relative unknown, local Kazakhstan player in the first round. Beat Vukic handily in the second round, and beat Mochizuki in 3. Now, for the matchup in itself, I get why Moutet's favored. I know Mickelson did beat him in the hardcore meeting this year, but I am going to take Moutet. I think Moutet's the better player. I think Mickelson had a great matchup and path so far. Struff is a good server, and Moutet broke him multiple times. Thought he returned very well. Mickelson, we know, can return too. Not a great server. I think that Moutet should be able to actually get a lot of break chances in this matchup. I think both guys might. I don't mind the combined over breaks if you can get that prop available to you. But I do think that beating Struff, Shevchenko, and Tomic, you could argue once again that Vukic is better than Shevchenko. That's an argument in itself. But I do think that getting Mochizuki and a relative unknown in the first round is a pretty favorable draw. It's why we took Mickelson to actually win his quarter. We don't think he's that great. It was based on current form. We just acknowledged that the field was a joke in his immediate section. That's why we took him. So I think Moutet's the better player. I think he should win. And I think he gets revenge for what happened in Cincinnati. But I do think Moutet is the guy who's faced off against better competition so far in the event. You could argue that, but I think Moutet's better than Mickelson. I'll go for him in this one. Moving on to the next event that we're going to talk about. The next one will be in Stockholm. So, moving on to the matchups here. In Stockholm, you have Humbert taking on Rune. Rematch of what happened last week when Rune destroyed Humbert. They faced off, just for a reminder, faced off in Shanghai about a week ago, or a week and a half ago, and Rune beat him in straight sets. Now, for the pricing, Humbert's favored in some books, and he's a dog in other books. To shop around, I saw a book with Rune at plus money. I see other books with Rune at minus 115. So shop around. Basically a pick 'em, though, if you actually, take the aggregate odds and you just kind of put them together. It's basically a pick 'em. Either way, though, the over-under is at around 22.5 or 23.5. For the set spread, you have Rune in straight sets at plus 200. You have Humbert in straight sets at plus 220. The over 2.5 sets is plus 135. So I said a second ago, Rune did beat Humbert about a week and a half ago. Story of their head-to-head. Rune has never lost. He's 5-0. against Humbert. In fact, he's only won one set against Rune in all 5 meetings combined. Now, Humbert, we have to win the event. Same with Rune. So we have a guaranteed finalist in the event. So technically, you don't really need action if you don't want it. But the point is, look at the path so far. Humbert beat Berrettini and beat Sonego in 3. As for Rune, ended up beating Fuchsovics and beat Echeverry. So I think Humbert has looked sharper so far in the event. Having said that, Rune does own him in the head-to-head, and he's also been great against lefties. I actually looked this up. Rune, in his last 12 matches against lefty players, in his last 14 matches against lefty players, is 11-3. So he's really good against lefties, and I do think that's a big reason why he's able to beat Humbert constantly. I think you're looking at a good spot for Rune to get the job done. I am going to point out Van's point, which is Rune always looking tired. I get that Rune seems to always have some type of physical moments in matches where he's going to look exhausted. He'll start pouting. He'll start yelling at his coaching staff. It's really annoying to witness, but at the end of the day, it is part of the character. You kind of get used to it. I think you're right, though. I think Rune is definitely a guy I don't really trust. But at the same point, I think that he's better than Humbert, and he's proven in the head-to-head he's definitely better than Humbert. If Humbert wins, I'll be happy about it. I got him at 16-1 to win the event. But I do think that Rune is a guy who, just based on the head-to-head, is a bad matchup for Humbert. Once again, 0-5 is one thing, but winning one set in those 5 meetings combined, and I can get Rune at plus money, I think it's a great price. Shop around. You can find a couple of small plus money options. I'll go for it with the head-to-head dominance. I'll go for Rune in this one. Might go 3. I don't mind the over 2.5 sets. Humbert is a very good indoor hardcourt player. But based on the head-to-head, I have to go for Rune here in this one. Moving on to the next matchup, you have looking at Collignon taking on Felix. For this one, you are looking at a pretty, I'd say, expensive price, more than you might think. Felix is around minus 280. You have Collignon at around plus 225. For the spread, minus 3.5 for Felix, plus 3.5 for Collignon. The over-under is at 22.5. For the set spread, Felix in straight sets is plus 109. You have Collignon to win a set at minus 140. The over 2.5 sets is plus 140. So for the head-to-head, they have never faced off against each other. Now, Collignon does have the Belgian crowd, which has been working to his advantage pretty heavily. Beat Bergs, beat Comasagna, and beat Fekina. He looked great in the second set against Fekina, so he's definitely in good form. Felix has been winning. He's made it dicey, though. Zoomer went to a final set breaker, and he beat Spazziri, but he fought off 2 set points in the second set before winning in straight sets. So Felix has been vulnerable so far in the event. Now, I will point out we're rooting for Felix, of course, because we have him, and we don't have Collignon to win the event. So if Collignon loses, we'll automatically win. So we're hoping for Felix to win. But do I think there's a potential underdog shot here for Collignon? I do. I'm going to take the dog. I think that Felix is too big of a favorite here at minus 280. I get it. He's a good indoor hardcourt player. Has he looked great in the event? Not really. Once again, he's left the door open for a couple of inferior players to potentially beat him. De Zoomer, who had 0 aces, ended up going to a final set breaker. I'm not really sold on the form of Felix. I think his firepower is good enough to potentially beat Collignon anyway. But for the value, I don't see much on Felix. I think 280 is an expensive price. Collignon looks very, very good. I think you're looking at a spot where, at the end of the day, I think that Felix maybe outlasts him, but I don't want to find out. I'd rather just take the games. I think that plus 3.5 has some value on Collignon. If you want to go for the team total over, that's an option too. I'm on the over games at 22.5. Keep it simple, minus 126. Think that ends up turning into a bit of a marathon. We have seen a couple of breakers of Felix already, and we ended up seeing a breaker in the first set against Fekina for Collignon. Give me the over for the games at 22.5. I do think that Felix might be an upset alert for this one. We thought that Collignon would make it close against Fekina. Didn't think he'd win, and he did. If he plays anywhere near the level that he played in that second set, he can pull this off. Give me the dog at a good price at around plus 225. I think this is going to be interesting. It might go 3. Don't mind the over 2.5 sets as well at plus 140. But once again, the all-encompassing theme here is I think the dog's alive for this one. Moving on to the matchups taking place in Brussels. So for this one, starting off with the matchup between Pericard and Leheshka. So for this one, Leheshka is a decent favorite, about minus 180. You have Pericard around plus 145. For the game spread, minus 1.5 for Leheshka, plus 1.5 for Pericard, and the over-under is at 25.5. Now, the common theme with these players, they do not get broken in this event. In fact, neither guy has gone broken. Said before, Musetti is a guy who's owned him historically, mainly because of the deep return position and the fact that we know Pericard's not a great rallier. Musetti forced 0 break points, and Leheshka did lose a set to Bonzi in a breaker. Both guys have not been broken in the entire tournament. Now, we have both guys to win the event, so once again, we are already priced in to a guaranteed finalist in this event. Having said that, they faced off before in a clay event in Leheshka's home country of Czech Republic, and Leheshka won in 3. That was 3 years ago, and I'll point out that it did feature only 1 break of serve in the entire 3-set match, but I think you're looking at Leheshka, who's the better player. The problem is you're looking at Pericard, who can win a set while barely forcing any actual return point winners because he's just going to serve bombs and win a breaker. It's just how it goes. So for this one, I'll go for Leheshka. I think he's the better player. That's why we took him to win the event in general. Pericard we took because we thought that there was a chance that the serving display would be on full, I'd say, effect in the fast-paced courts of Brussels. But I do think Leheshka's better, and I do think you can argue that for the price, there might be some value on Pericard, because if we're picking some breakers, and that could go either way, 180 is kind of expensive. I can understand that. I saw a couple books that had Pericard team total over at 12.5 at like minus 120. I didn't mind that. I think that's the angle you'd go for if you wanted to go for Pericard, because if he wins or loses, if he wins a set, you're probably getting at least 175 or 76 in there. So based on that, I didn't mind the Pericard team total over at 12.5 if you can find it. I think Leheshka wins. I don't think it turns out to be an easy matchup. So I'll go for the over. I know it's 25.5. It's juiced, though, at minus 150. It's really tough to bet. FanDuel has the specials, which are breaker in the first 2 sets, which I dabble with every now and then. That's like plus 180. You're just picking basically 2 serve bots to go at it. I'm not saying Leheshka's a serve bot entirely, but it's what the market suggests. And I can't disagree. So I'll go for the over. And I don't mind the Pericard team total over at 12.5. I think Leheshka wins, but I think Pericard, for serving alone, can win a set. So I don't mind that as my angle, and I'll move on from there. Moving on to the last match we're going to talk about. Matchup between, going through it quickly. You have Shapo taking on... Actually, I think I just butchered the entire... so I ended up doing the same thing I did last time. I mixed the events. So Calignon is in Brussels. I talked about that already. However, I skipped the Shapo match against Ruud. So I went out of order again. Whatever. I ended up covering all the matches anyway. So for this one, you're looking at the matchup between Ruud and Shapo. Ruud's minus 144. You see Shapo at plus 125. For the spread, I see minus 1.5 for Ruud, plus 1.5 for Shapo. For the over-under, I see 22.5 games. And for the set spread, Ruud in straight sets, he is plus 165. Shapo in straight sets, plus 270. The over 2.5 sets is plus 125. So apologies once again. I messed up the order midway through going through Stockholm. But we're going back to it. I covered all the matchups anyway in some capacity. So for the form so far, both guys have been winning, but not dominantly. Shapo dropped a set to Borg and Emer. Not great, but you know what? Winning is winning. And Ruud dropped a set to Korda, and he beat Cilic in straight sets. Was down a break, though, in the first set. He also retired in his match against Bergs in Shanghai, but that was 2 weeks ago, so he had time to recover. Not going to read too much into that one. So for the actual head-to-head, I will point out that Ruud ended up beating Shapo in the first 2 meetings, both on clay. Face off this year in Dallas on hardcourt, and Shapo beat him 7-6, 6-3. So the only hardcore meeting this year, you saw Shapo win, and Ruud, we know, has been kind of injured since his win in Madrid months ago. Now, for the pricing, first of all, do I agree with it? I do. I think Ruud should be favored. I think that Shapo, even though he's played well in the third set against weak competition, Emer and Borg, I think Borg stinks. I mean, losing a set to Borg is ridiculous. But the point is Shapo has been choking, and he's been able to survive. But it's the second straight match. He has gotten broken while serving for the match. You can't keep doing that against good competition. And I get that Shapo beat him in Dallas, but I think Ruud might get some revenge here. I like the over for the team totals. I think that Ruud team total over 12.5 makes sense at minus 120. We saw him go to 3 against Korda. We saw the first meeting this year. Shapo did win, but there was a breaker in the first set. I think you're looking at Ruud probably getting the job done, but I don't really trust either guy on the side. So I'll go for the total instead. I didn't mind the over at 22.5. I didn't mind the over team total for Ruud. Didn't mind the over 2.5 sets at around plus 130. So I'll go for the over instead. 2 head cases battling it out. Maybe we'll get an injury timeout. Who knows? Shopball, I believe, took an injury timeout at the end of the first set. So keep an eye on the fitness for both guys, but I see a close matchup. Instead of picking a side, I would go Ruud, but I'd rather not lay 140 with Ruud. So give me the over instead. Give me a close battle between the two of them. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for all of the matchups on the card. It's going to wrap it up for all 6 matches taking place on Saturday. Time to go on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, reminder brought to you by our sponsor, Arctic Fantasy. You can play Fantasy Pick'em, chance to 5 times your entry, pick higher or lower on player stats, different sports as well. You can use tennis, you can use basketball, you can use football, college football, you name it. They also have a new offer for new customers. Play just $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the cross-chain college football and the NFL with picks and props, giving away cash prize every week just for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets of the same type from all that you build, and you can win $1K. Use promo code SGPN25 when down the Rhythm app for a quarter of the first month. Down Rhythm once again. Promo code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finish going through the preview of the 6 semifinal matchups taking place on Saturday. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I'm going to go back to Brussels. Going to go to the matchup between Lehechka and Perricard. I was saving it, and I was going to go back to it. I have another play that I do like. Predictable, but I'll go with it. Give me the first set, over 10.5 games at minus 138. It's juicy. Juicier at other spots, though. I saw that FanDuel had minus 170, I believe, and I found a 138 on Bet365, which I will take. Now, for the actual market itself, it sounds dangerous. One break and you basically lose. Then again, we know Perricard is not a great breaker of serve. He broke Musetti one time, and it was the first service game for Musetti. He came out rusty. He settled in. Perricard didn't break him again. So I'm not going to overreact to him breaking Musetti one time. Lehechka, though, has not been broken the entire event. Neither has Perricard. So both guys holding serve at will, and that's what you need. 5 holds each, and you win. So there you go. At the end of the day, though, they faced off one time on clay, 2022, so it was years ago, but there was only one combined break on clay in those 3 sets. So the limited head-to-head information that we have on clay, we did see only one break. I think it's a good spot for a hold fest early. We might get breaker or not, but 25.5 games at minus 150 kind of tells you the story. They're not picking many breaks, if any. I believe the over-under combined breaks in the whole match is at 1.5. I see a pretty simple hold fest early, and both guys are going to struggle returning. As a result, I'm going to go with the first set over 10.5 games, minus 138. If that's a bit too juicy on your book, I don't mind 12.5. I'm not picking a 7.5, but I do think that it's worth the price shopping around when there's a 170, I can get it at 138. So I'll go for the, once again, first set over in the Lehechka-Perricard match, over 10.5, minus 138 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go back to the matchup between Rune and Humbert. Simply put, a guy who's 5-0 lifetime should not be getting plus money. Give me plus 104 on Rune. He's 5-0 lifetime. He's only lost 1 set in all 5 meetings combined. Humbert, I know, is a very good indoor hardcore player. Not saying it'll be easy, but one book having him as a dog makes no sense for Rune, who's owned him in the head-to-head, beat him a week and a half ago in straight sets on hardcourt as well. And I said before, but I'll say it again, Rune does own lefties. He's 11-3 straight up in the last 14 matches against lefties. I see a good spot for Rune to get the job done. It might not be easy. If you want to get greedy, maybe Rune 2-1 if you want to go for some greed. But I do think Rune is simply put the better player. And until Humbert exercises some demons and actually beats this damn guy, I'm not going to pick him. But plus money for a guy that's 5-0 in the head-to-head, including one meeting that happened a week and a half ago, I got to take. That price is nuts. I'll go for it before the line moves. So once again, the plays here for the semis, the lock's going to be on the Lehechka-Perricard match. First set over 10.5 games at minus 138. For the dog, I'm going to go for the Rune money line at plus 104. It's going to wrap up the show. Like once again, in the final breakdown episode for Almaty, Brussels, and